You think everything is fine. You think your relationship has found its rhythm after those first intense months, maybe years. You've settled into comfort, into routine, into what you believe is security. And then it happens. Out of nowhere, she starts doing something that makes no sense. Something that turns your peaceful life into a battlefield, and you're standing there, confused, wondering what the hell just happened to the woman you thought you knew. Let me tell you something that's going to shake you to your core. Every woman does this. Every single one. It doesn't matter how sweet she was in the beginning, how much she says she loves you, how perfect your relationship seemed. At some point, usually after months or years when you least expect it, she's going to start testing you. Not those cute little tests from the dating phase. I'm talking about something deeper, more primal, something that will determine the entire future of your relationship. And here's what's really messed up. She doesn't even know she's doing it. This isn't conscious. This isn't planned. This is her subconscious suddenly waking up and asking, wait, who is this man I'm with? Is he really as strong as I thought? Or have I been fooled? And once that question enters her subconscious mind, the testing begins. And brother, if you don't understand what's happening, you're already lost. Why doesn't this happen from day one? Why does it start suddenly after you've been together for a while? Because in the beginning, you were a mystery. You were unpredictable. You had your own life, your own priorities, your own frame. But as time passes, as you get comfortable, as you start prioritizing the relationship over yourself, something shifts. You become predictable. You become safe. You become attached. And that's when her subconscious starts questioning whether you're really the strong man she thought she was with, or just another weak man pretending. This is the brutal truth about how women see men. There are only two categories in her subconscious mind: strong men and weak men, dominant men and submissive men, leaders and followers. There's no middle ground, no grey area, no sometimes strong, sometimes weak. You're either one or the other, and every single interaction, every response to her tests, is data her subconscious uses to categorize you. The strong man, the dominant man, he has clear boundaries. He knows who he is. He doesn't need her approval to make decisions. He's not afraid of conflict. He's not afraid of her emotions. He's not afraid of losing her because his life is complete with or without her. When she tests him, he doesn't even realize he's being tested because maintaining his frame is just who he is. The weak man, he's the opposite. He needs her approval for everything. He's terrified of making her upset. He'll compromise his values, his boundaries, his very identity just to keep the peace. He thinks being understanding means being weak. He thinks love means sacrifice. He thinks keeping her happy is his job. And every time he bends, every time he compromises, every time he chooses her emotions over his integrity, he confirms what her subconscious suspects. He's weak. I saw this play out with a colleague of mine. First year of marriage, he was still himself. Went to the gym, hung out with friends, pursued his hobbies. His wife would occasionally complain, but he'd handle it calmly. I need this for my well-being, he'd say, and that was that. But slowly the complaints increased. You care more about the gym than me. Your friends are more important than our marriage. And instead of maintaining his position, he started compromising. First, he cut gym days from 5 to 3, then to 2, then to when she's busy. Within 2 years, he'd gained 30 pounds, lost touch with his friends, and his wife was disgusted by him. Not because of the weight, but because he'd become weak. He'd failed every test by giving in, and her subconscious had reclassified him from strong to weak. And here's where it gets really controversial, really hard to swallow. The more attached you become, the weaker you appear. I know, this goes against everything you've been taught about relationships. Show her you love her. Make her your priority. Happy wife, happy life. But think about it. When you first met her, when she was most attracted to you, were you attached? Were you needy? Were you reorganizing your entire life around her? Number. You were independent. You had options. You could take her or leave her. And that's exactly what made you attractive. But now you can't imagine life without her. Now you need her validation to feel good about yourself. Now her mood determines your mood. Now her happiness is more important than your own. You think this is love, but what it really is weakness. And her subconscious knows it. Her subconscious can smell it like fear. And once she smells that fear, that neediness, that attachment, the testing intensifies. Let me explain what happens in her subconscious when she senses weakness. It's not a conscious thought. She doesn't wake up thinking, I'm going to test my man today. No, it's deeper than that. It's primal, it's biological. When her subconscious detects weakness, it goes into what I call check mode. It starts provoking, pushing boundaries, creating drama, all to answer one question. Is he really weak, or am I wrong? This isn't malicious. This isn't evil. This is hardwired into female nature. Throughout human evolution, women needed to be with strong men for survival. Weak men meant death, for her and her children. So her subconscious developed this testing mechanism to constantly verify the strength of her mate. In modern times, the stakes aren't life and death, but the programming remains. The testing starts small. She'll question a decision you made. She'll create drama over something insignificant. She'll withdraw affection to see if you'll chase. She'll push a boundary to see if it's real. And she's watching, always watching, to see how you respond. Do you stand firm or do you bend? Do you maintain your frame or do you enter hers? Do you remain calm or do you get emotional? Most men fail these tests without even knowing they're being tested. She creates drama, and you try to solve it logically. You think if you just explain better, if you just help her understand, the problem will go away. But the problem isn't the surface issue. The surface issue is just the test. The real question is, will you maintain your frame, or will you be pulled into her emotional chaos? Then comes the cycle that destroys relationships. She provokes, you give in to keep the peace. She loses more respect and runs away, maybe to her mother's house, maybe to a friend's place, maybe just emotionally. You panic and chase. You apologize, promise to change, beg her to come back. She returns, but not because you won her over. She returns because the test isn't complete. She needs to see how much control she really has, and the cycle repeats, each time making you weaker, more desperate, more controllable. I watched this happen to a friend of mine. Successful businessman, confident in every area of life except with his wife. She would start fights, threaten to leave, pack her bags. He'd panic, flowers, jewellery, promises to be better. She'd come back, things would be good for a few weeks, then the cycle would start again. After 3 years of this, he was a shell of himself. Anxiety attacks, couldn't make simple decisions without her approval, constantly walking on eggshells. The man who used to run board meetings was now afraid to choose what to watch on TV without checking with her first. And you know what happened next? She left him anyway. After all that compromising, all that bending, all that sacrifice, she left him for a personal trainer at her gym. A guy who barely made a third of what my friend made, but who had one thing my friend had lost: frame. The trainer didn't care if she was upset. He didn't rearrange his life for her. He didn't need her approval, and her subconscious recognized strength and responded to it, despite her conscious mind knowing my friend was the better choice on paper. Let me tell you exactly how men fail these tests, and you're going to recognize yourself in at least some of these. When she creates drama, you respond with logic and reason. You think you can talk your way out of it, explain your way to peace. But she doesn't want logic. Logic isn't the test. The test is whether you'll be pulled into her frame or maintain your own. Or you respond with fear. Fear of conflict, fear of her anger, fear of losing her. So you immediately apologize, immediately compromise, immediately give in. You think you're being mature, being the bigger person, but what you're really doing is showing weakness. And every time you do this, every single time, you lose a piece of her respect that you'll never get back. Maybe you try to overcare your way through the tests. You shower her with attention, affection, gifts. You become a dancing monkey, performing for her approval. Look how much I love you. Look how much I care. Please be happy. But the more you care, the more you chase, the more desperate you become, the weaker you appear. It's like bleeding in shark-infested waters and wondering why you're getting attacked. Some men think the answer is therapy. We need to communicate better. We need to work on our relationship. So you go to couples counselling, where you're told to be more vulnerable, to share your feelings, to be more emotionally available. You cry in front of her, share your deepest fears, your insecurities. The therapist says you're making progress. Your wife says she appreciates your openness. 3 months later, she's fucking someone else because you've become so weak in her eyes that she's physically repulsed by you. Or maybe you try to get others involved. Her family, your family, mutual friends. You think if there's social pressure, she'll behave. But all this does is confirm that you can't handle your own relationship. You need backup. You need support. You're so weak that you can't even manage your own woman without help from others. I remember a client who tried everything: logic, emotion, therapy, family intervention. His wife would create these massive fights about nothing. The way he loaded the dishwasher, the tone of his voice, his breathing being too loud. He tried every approach. He read relationship books, implemented communication strategies, even went to individual therapy to work on himself. Nothing worked. The tests got worse. She started staying out late, not answering her phone, flirting with other men in front of him. He was desperate, broken, suicidal even. Then something changed. Not in her, but in him. He just stopped caring. Not in a bitter way, not in an angry way, but genuinely stopped needing her approval. He started going to the gym again, started seeing his friends. When she created drama, he'd simply say, "I'm going for a walk. We can talk when you're calm." When she threatened to leave, he said, "I'll help you pack." Not as a threat, not as manipulation, but genuinely. And something fascinating happened. The test stopped. She became sweet again, affectionate. The woman he'd fallen in love with. Why? Because his inner state had changed. He'd become whole without her. So what's the solution? Here's what most men don't want to hear. You need to show teeth. Not become abusive, not become an asshole, but show that you have boundaries and you're willing to enforce them. When she tests, you don't explain, you don't negotiate, you don't compromise. You simply don't accept unacceptable behavior. She creates drama, you don't engage, not in anger, not in frustration, but with genuine indifference. When you're ready to have an adult conversation, I'm here. Until then, I have things to do. And then you actually go do things. You don't sit around waiting for her to calm down. You live your life. She threatens to leave? That's your choice. I'm not going to beg someone to be with me who doesn't want to be here. And you mean it. You're not bluffing. You're not playing games. You're genuinely willing to let her go rather than compromise your self-respect. She violates a boundary. There are immediate consequences. Not anger, not revenge, but consequences. She disrespects you in public. You leave. She makes plans without considering you. You make your own plans. She withholds affection. You withdraw attention. Not as punishment, but as a natural consequence of her behavior. But here's where most men get it wrong. They think this means becoming cold, distant, emotionally unavailable. They become a brick wall thinking that's strength. No. That's not strength. That's fear dressed up as indifference. You still interact, you still engage, you still love, but from a position of wholeness, not neediness. The difference is this: a needy man gives affection because he needs something back, validation, sex, approval. A whole man gives affection because he chooses to, expecting nothing in return. A needy man avoids conflict because he fears loss. A whole man addresses issues calmly because he values resolution but doesn't fear outcomes. This emotional disengagement isn't about not caring. It's about not being controlled by your caring. You can love her deeply without needing her desperately. You can want her in your life without requiring her for your happiness. You can be fully present without losing yourself. This is what most men can't understand. You can be emotionally engaged without being emotionally dependent. I see men misinterpret this all the time. They think being strong means being an emotionless robot. They put on this fake alpha act, never showing emotion, never being vulnerable, never letting their guard down. But that's not strength. That's insecurity wearing a mask. Real strength is being able to experience the full range of emotions without being controlled by them. Real strength is choosing when to be vulnerable from a position of security, not hiding behind walls out of fear. When you achieve this state, when you're genuinely whole within yourself, something interesting happens. The tests decrease, not because she's consciously deciding to stop testing, but because her subconscious is getting consistent data that you're strong. Every test you pass without even noticing it's a test reinforces your position as a dominant man in her subconscious categorization. But here's the thing about this inner switch. This transformation from needy to whole, it can't be faked. You can't pretend to be whole. You can't act like you don't need her while secretly dying inside for her approval. Her subconscious will know. Women have evolved incredibly sensitive detection systems for male weakness. You can fool her conscious mind temporarily, but her subconscious always knows the truth. This is why true dominance isn't about behavior, it's about inner state. It's not about what you do, it's about who you are. You must genuinely reach a place where you're complete without her, where your happiness, your sense of self, your worth as a man doesn't depend on her or any woman. This isn't easy. This requires real inner work, real growth, real development as a man. Think about it like this. Imagine you're starving, haven't eaten in days, and someone offers you food but with conditions. You'll accept almost any condition because you need that food. Now imagine you've just finished a satisfying meal and someone offers you food with the same conditions. You can take it or leave it. The food hasn't changed, but your relationship to it has. This is the difference between neediness and wholeness. When you're emotionally starving, you'll accept any treatment to get that validation. When you're emotionally full, you can evaluate whether what's being offered is worth accepting. Most men never make this transition. They spend their entire lives ping-ponging between needy attachment and fake indifference. They never find that centered place of genuine strength. They never become truly whole. And so they spend their relationships in endless cycles of testing and failing, drama and reconciliation, each cycle making them weaker until either she leaves or they both settle into a dead relationship where she has contempt for him and he has no idea why. The harsh reality is this: if you've been failing these tests for years, if she's firmly categorized you as weak, it might be too late for your current relationship. Once a woman's subconscious has categorized you as weak, it's almost impossible to change that categorization. You can start showing strength, but she'll see it as an act. You can set boundaries, but she'll test them even harder to see if they're real. You can become genuinely strong, but she'll never fully believe it because the image of you as weak is burned into her subconscious. I've seen men transform themselves, become genuinely strong, set real boundaries, achieve that inner wholeness we're talking about, and their wives still treat them with contempt. Why? Because the weakness image is too deeply embedded. She saw him beg, she saw him cry, she saw him compromise his integrity for her approval. That image doesn't go away. It's like trying to unsee something. Once you've seen it, it's there forever. This is why it's crucial to understand these dynamics from the beginning. This is why you must maintain your strength from day one. Never let yourself become so attached that you lose yourself. Never let your boundaries become negotiable. Never let your frame be compromised. Because once you're categorized as weak, once you fail enough tests, the relationship is essentially over, even if it continues for years. The testing never completely stops, by the way. Even the strongest man will face occasional tests. The difference is that for a strong man, these tests are minor blips that he passes without even noticing. For a weak man, every test is a crisis that threatens the relationship. The strong man maintains frame naturally. The weak man doesn't even have a frame to maintain. Here's something crucial to understand. When I talk about showing teeth, about having boundaries, about being willing to walk away, I'm not talking about threats or ultimatums. Threats and ultimatums come from weakness, from trying to control through fear. Real boundaries come from self-respect. You're not trying to control her behavior. You're controlling what you will and won't accept in your life. There's a huge difference. A weak man says, "If you do that again, I'm leaving," but doesn't mean it. It's a manipulation tactic trying to control through fear. A strong man doesn't threaten. He simply has standards, and when those standards are violated, he acts accordingly. No drama, no threats, just consequences. The difference is that one comes from fear and the other comes from self-respect. Remember this: every woman does this to her man. It's not personal. It's not about you specifically. It's about biological programming that's thousands of years old. The question isn't whether you'll be tested. You will be. The question is whether you'll recognize the tests for what they are and respond from a position of strength, or whether you'll fail them and confirm her subconscious suspicions that you're weak. The choice is yours. Continue being the man who fails tests, who chases, who begs, who compromises himself into weakness. Or become the man who maintains frame naturally, who has unshakable boundaries, who is whole within himself. Become the man who doesn't need to be tested because his strength is self-evident in every interaction. Because here's the ultimate paradox: when you don't need her, she needs you. When you're not afraid to lose her, she's afraid to lose you. When you're strong enough to walk away, she'll do anything to keep you. This isn't game playing. This isn't manipulation. This is simply how attraction works at the deepest biological level. Every woman does this to her man. Now you know what this is. Now you understand why it happens. Now you can see the pattern. The only question remaining is, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to continue failing tests you didn't even know existed? Or are you going to become the kind of man who doesn't need to be tested because his strength speaks for itself? The answer to that question will determine not just the fate of your current relationship, but every relationship you'll ever have. Because until you make that inner switch, Until you become truly whole, you'll repeat these patterns with every woman you meet. Different woman, same tests, same failures, same outcomes. Don't be that man. Don't be the one who discovers these truths too late. Don't be the one who loses everything before understanding what was really happening. The tests are coming whether you're ready or not. The only question is, will you pass or fail? And remember, this isn't about becoming someone you're not. This is about becoming who you really are underneath all the conditioning, all the programming, all the fear. The strong man isn't a costume you put on. It's what remains when you strip away all the neediness, all the fear, all the desperate need for approval. That's the man she was attracted to in the beginning. That's the man her subconscious is testing for. That's the man you need to become, or remember how to be.